Presented by That Time I Got Reincarnated in the Same World as an Anime Podcaster, this is Shonen Jumping the Gun! The show where we set our sights on the first chapter of a manga and decide if it's a misfire or a bullseye.
Let's see how many rounds are in this magazine.
On today's episode, Kagurabachi. Welcome, everybody, to the first episode of Shonen Jumping the Gun. Hopefully you will judge us more favorably on this episode than we will be judging the first chapters of these mangas we'll be reading.
We should introduce ourselves.
We should probably do that. Hi, my name is Kermit the Grog, your lovely, lovely host, and joined by my lovely, lovely co-host on this episode, Isekai Sensei-Sama, Brad.
What's up?
We're trying something new. I'm back in the hosting seat. And today we will be, I guess we should probably do a better intro about what we're doing. Due to our recent bout of new manga in Shonen Jump, we are starting this series to talk about these first chapters of things, and I find it really fun to, even though you have almost no information, to make long-reaching predictions about the quality of a particular series.
You could say it's jumping the gun.
Wow, what a pun! So today we are starting with a new series that just came out literally 2 weeks ago at the time of this recording that is getting all over the internet, I think, for the wrong reasons.
Yeah, I'm really interested in what the heck is going on. I haven't read into it very much. I have a peripheral view of what's going on. So.
Somewhat samey, but we are covering Kagurabachi, which I'm hopefully saying correctly, which appears to be the ultimate Shonen Jump formula of, hey, you got your Hitman in my magical sword slayer. Hey, you got your magical sword slayer and my Hitman. And you know what? I'm here for it.
Yeah.
So Brad, as the test dummy for a lot of these things, what did you think of this first chapter of Kagurabachi?
So I enjoyed it. I had been seeing a lot of the memes around before I read it. And based on the memes, I was like, oh, this must be ridiculous because people are making fun of it, right? And then you were like, hey, let's do this new series. Let's cover this one first. So I went and I read it, and I was like, oh, this is all right.
Yeah.
There wasn't anything in there that I was like, oh my God, blowing my mind. But it was also like, it was just a solid shonen series. Like, you got some cool sword fighting. You got the kid who, spoiler alert, lost his dad. You got the cool older friend who's going to help him out. You got a plot going on. It's got all the pieces.
Yeah, I don't want to get too much in the memes thing. You can tell a lot of people who are making memes about it probably haven't read it because there's so much other like reaction face in it. The way that the author draws the faces of the silly characters, including his dad and his dad's friend.
That's a sort of classic manga thing, though.
All of their mouths are just open agape in these weird angles, and they make me smile and laugh, and I love it. So I guess here's the basic plot of what we've been described so far in this first chapter. So his dad makes swords. I guess later on we learn they are magical. He is apprenticed to his dad to make these swords.
Oh, and this is like somewhat present day modern era
but
kind
also
of thing.
Maybe a different thing because there's like been a war,
and there's magic, so it's obviously like an alternate world, but
like it looks more modern-y city, but it's not super clear. Earth, but not. His dad is very, like, goofy and kind of silly and over the top, but when he's working, he's very, like, dedicated, and he's, like, literally one of the best sword makers on Earth. And his son, who we didn't get their names because I never remember the names from the first chapter, is very, like,
Kagurabachi,
right? Sure, he Kagurabachi'd all over him. He's very serious, and he's like, I have to keep putting up with my dad's shenanigans. He's a bit of an edgelord, and he becomes more of an edgelord. So that happens. Something happens. Wibbly wobbly. Wait. Like 3 years in the future, or maybe more than that.
I think his name's Akira.
That sounds right.
Right, because I remember reading that and going, really?
I mean, some people's names are just Akira.
Yeah. But...
And then we cut to the future. His dad is somehow dead in a way that we don't know, and he is now going around killing magical gangsters to take back all the swords because he's like, you pigs don't deserve these. And that's kind of where the first chapter ends, is mid that. Also, you learn there's a magic system, but we haven't heard too much about it.
Yeah, they really slow-rolled that. You didn't find out there was magic until, like, real close to the end where like there's a wizard and you're like, oh, some people have magic.
There's a
and then they're
gangster
like,
wizard.
oh, by the way, swords are imbued with magic too.
Yeah. I wonder if there'll be guns.
Yeah, I
I
guess
don't
we
know how
didn't
much
see
of that's
any.
me reading Sakamoto Days and Kill Blue, but I'm like, we're gonna get the freaking guns because it seems like they're like Yakuza gangsters, and I
Yeah.
feel like at some point somebody's gonna have a magical gun. So
And goldfish.
and goldfish. They're his dad buys goldfish, and he's like, no, I gotta take care of them. He's a bit of our main character Akira is a bit of an edgelord, and usually I hate edgelords. They piss me off, but I kind of love him.
I wouldn't describe him as an edgelord though. I mean, once again, take everything we're saying with a grain of salt.
Well, that's the
We
whole point
read
of
one
this.
chapter. But I was thinking that he was more on the side of just sort of like emotionless. He's obviously got some emotions, but he's very flat, which I think they were going for more of like a Sasuke before he got all angsty kind of thing.
There's definitely he's got some angst in him. It reminds me a lot of us watching Vinland Saga of little Thorfinn, who is just the littlest edgelord, but there are so many other characters who are like jolly. It doesn't feel like the world doesn't feel weighed down by him. But like this is the line that I think made a lot of people start memeing on it when you see it in or out of context. And before I read this before I knew it was memed, and I kind of loved it just because it's just so wonderfully, I don't want to say schlocky because I got really hype about it, but his buddy, now we're in the present day of the manga, and he's like, oh, I see you still have that scar, and he goes, why haven't you gotten rid of it? And he goes, Akira goes, every morning when I wash my face and look in the mirror, I see the scar, and I remember that day, so every day I start the morning with fresh hatred.
Oh yeah.
Like that. It's so edgelordy,
Yeah,
and
it
I
is.
love it. He's just so dripping with it.
As opposed to other times when you get edgelord stuff and it just feels cringy, it doesn't feel out of place.
I think because like his dad and especially his buddy his buddy's dad who's now working with him as he's an adult is just such a goofy, weird guy, and it lets you know that it's like, hey, we know this kid's a bit of a serious Gus.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean the rest of this needs to be that kind of dour or sad or, oh, the world's so bleh.
Yeah, I think I actually saw it listed as comedy. So it's like drama and comedy.
I would say it made me. There are multiple jokes in this, and spoiler alert: I've read the next chapter because it's week 2 and I'm going to read them.
What?
Brad's the guinea pig.
You can't.
I can't do that. Well, I can do that. You can't do that, even though you did as well.
I didn't know.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I've Shonen Jumped the Gun in this.
You
case.
told me to read this, and I was like, I'm just going to read one chapter, even though I like this. Oh, wait, that's spoilers.
Yeah. But like there were multiple times reading this first chapter and the second one where I laughed out loud, and I wasn't expecting that. So it's like I get that, I get cool looking action, I get this freaking edgelord that I can't wait to see. We've set up, kind of a vague sense of what we're doing. Like, I'm hooked. I love it. Is it the most incredible new crazy thing? No, but also it's the first chapter, which is the whole bit of this entire podcast. But like the way I describe it is, this is like a well-made fast food burger. I described it as if you have where you live a Five Guys. I would describe a Five Guys burger as like one step above like a McDonald's or a Wendy's of like, this is a fast food burger
I would actually,
made well.
So I would put a Wendy's burger above McDonald's burger.
Yeah.
And then I'm not sure where Burger King fits in there. Sometimes it's above Wendy's, sometimes it's below. I would put a Five Guys like 2 steps above Wendy's, which I'm not sure what's in the middle.
The Five Guys burgers of manga.
Yeah. No, I mean, so the analogy of that this is Five Guys. I just want to be clear that Five Guys is better than that.
Yeah, okay, good. Yes, thank you. Like, it's not some incredible new cuisine. It's not
an artisan burger.
No, it's not that either.
And it's a little bit more expensive than a normal fast food burger.
But it's still kind of fast foody. It's a little greasy.
It's very satisfying. And you go, oh, I get why this is good.
I'm excited in a couple weeks to eat another of these burgers.
Yeah.
And I think that's what Kagurabachi is to me. I like its art. I like where it's going. I've liked its characters. I liked its action. I liked its humor. I like it. I was excited to read the next chapter. I'm continually bewildered as an old man why it's being memed so hard, and I'm hoping at least a fraction of the people seeing the memes are going to go read it. It's free. You can go read it right now.
The art is, I would say, well executed, not necessarily like new and exciting.
Yeah.
It's a fairly standard style.
It's got a style. Like I said, anytime all the silly characters, like the way the artist constantly draws their mouths.
Yeah.
and they look like they're making silly faces all the time, but it seems on purpose. Like, I love it. Like, there's a clear style going on here, but it's not groundbreaking, but it's not like a generic look.
Right.
Because good art, this is also, if we haven't said, this is a new chapter in Shonen Jump, which you can get on your Shonen Jump app for free. We love the Shonen Jump app.
You better check it out soon, because in 2 weeks the first chapter won't be free. Oh no,
Nope,
no,
that's no. The first like 3 to 5 chapters are always free all the time.
So you probably have like
You have forever.
2 months, something like that, to read all of it for free forever.
You probably have a month if you want to get on the bus and stay on the bus.
But you know what?
For free.
Pay for Viz.
It's like
pretty cheap.
$3. It's like literally one of my favorite subscription services. So now that we've kind of talked about it, Isekai Sensei-Sama, Brad, I will present to you my votes, my voting system. So you have a choice from the bottom of certified flop, of like, this is trash, this will die in literally the minimum amount of chapters. Flop, which is like living slightly longer than that. Not like, it's like somebody dies and you spit on their grave. That's the difference between flop and certified flop. It'll live, which is like, it'll limp along. It's not going to be instantly dead, but it's not going to, like, it won't probably survive 100 chapters. We're also still figuring out the bounds of all these. A hit, which, like, it's doing well, it's doing good. I would say like a Akane Banashi or a Kill Blue right now is a hit. It's living, it's doing well, it's always high up in the magazine. And then atop all of that is the supernova, akin to a Demon Slayer or a Jujutsu Kaisen, which is just like, I guess technically One Piece, but that's also kind of its own thing.
Yeah.
And like, it'd be really fun to do One Piece from its first chapter, which is just like, this is literally like medium and business shifting. Like, everything is going to shift around these things. So what would you give of those 5 votes? What would you give?
I'm gonna call this a hit.
Kagurabachi. I would agree with that.
So little bit of meta on this though, because I did see the ranking. Someone posted the ranking, and I think this is currently 4th, which is, it's like right behind Jujutsu Kaisen.
What they use the ranking stuff? I think I saw that too, because it's like a specific manga reader that's that.
Yeah, I forget.
But it is making its way up there.
So One Piece was number 1.
Yeah.
And then I think it passed Boruto.
I think if it wasn't then, it probably has now. The joy of one of the grand joys of Shonen Jumping the Gun is how little power we have over the magazine, at least for Shonen Jump, because American viewing numbers, to my current knowledge, mean nothing. So it's really fun shouting a bunch about things that I have zero effect or impact on.
I will say though,
and my feelings can be hurt by Japanese teens that I will never know or meet, but I will curse from a distance as an old man.
Given what I saw there, I think this has the potential to be a supernova. I feel like it shouldn't be. It should just be a regular hit.
But who knows? I've never read the first chapter of Demon Slayer. I'd be very curious. At some point, I want to reach back at these ones that we know are huge and go, how do we feel about this if we tried to shut off everything we know?
And it potentially has a long way to go. So
yeah, it set itself up. I think it shows. Sometimes it's not always about what they do, but you can feel the chops of the people making it.
Yeah.
And this one felt like it had good chops that I was interested in. It also helped that there was another series we'll be talking about probably in the next episode that maybe made my feelings on new chapters complicated. But I think it did everything it needed to do. It hooked me. It was interesting. It had legs, because sometimes we will find them. Well, I guess we won't find them on the show unless we go back to things. You can have an incredible first chapter, and then chapter 2 happens, and you can tell the author doesn't know where he wants to go.
Yeah.
Which is weird, because like, you would at least think the first arc they would know where they're going, and it's just like, oh, you just had the start. You just put your boat in, and then now you're waffling from moment one. Like,
well, I think it's the Earthchild problem, where it's like, oh, you just wrote a one shot, and then they picked it up, and you had to figure out where to go with it.
Yeah, that I would definitely say there's some series that have done that, where it's just like, oh, you had your one shot, and you just didn't know what you were doing anymore. You've caught the mail truck, and now you just don't know what to do with yourself out of the gate. So that's, again, this is the joy of Shonen Jumping the Gun, where you can get the first chapter and it can be immaculate, and then chapter 2 is just like, oh, the wheels are coming off already.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, Kagurabachi, in my opinion, that doesn't happen. It's still got time. You never know.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to go home and read the second chapter now.
There you go. So I guess outside of that, I guess that actually talks to that. We had our first voting system, but that's our feelings if it will live or not our maybe personal feelings about it. So I guess the thing for that, it sounds like you've already answered, is, Brad, will you keep reading Kagurabachi?
I will. I read the first chapter and I immediately added it to my favorites. Now, when I say added it to my favorites, that doesn't necessarily mean it is one of my favorites. It just means it's on my reading list in Viz.
I will get back to it. Yeah.
Yeah. I am going to continue reading this. I think I'm going to like it.
Well, that's fantastic.
I will let everyone know, if you have not listened to the regular podcast before, I tend to enjoy things, generally speaking.
Yes.
So that's not necessarily a great endorsement, but
I think it says something. Yeah, I am. If this has not, also, if you have not, listened to the normal, the regular podcast, however you want to describe it, the mainline series, this is definitely a guide-in. This is a spinoff. What was that other character up to during this arc? I have strong feelings on things because I like having strong feelings on media, because I can't hurt people's feelings because it's not real.
I hope that people with the two of us will get a good perspective, because we are sort of on opposite ends of that spectrum a lot of times.
I'm on extremes and Brad is more of an anchor, so I feel like we can bounce things well.
That should be said, that especially, talking about Kagurabachi, since we're both on board with it, that's somewhat of a good endorsement.
Yes. So, thumbs up, Kagurabachi, a bullseye from only one chapter of evidence, and the comedy that comes from that. So, thank you for listening, wonderful listeners. And if you'd like to play at home, you can join us on the Shonen Flop Discord, which is Brad, sorry, not our Discord, which you should also go join, which we will tell you about in a moment. Where I've started up the flop pool, which was one of the motivations for this. So you can join in, you can place your vote if you think a new series will live or die, and we'll chart how wonderfully wrong we are all. Or maybe we're super snipers and we had it right on the mark from chapter 1. Who knows? You never know. That's the joy of it. This show and the flop pools are already all about getting egg on our face with how wrong we can be.
Yeah.
This show is about taking L's in the future.
So thanks, Shonen Flop, for giving us this opportunity to have our more content for our.
Thank you for inspiring me to make more things.
If you haven't been on there before, Shonen Flop, they are great guys. The Discord is great. As Kermit said, jump on their Discord. Go to the Shonen Jump channel on the Discord. That's where you can find all the information on the flop pool.
Yeah. A lot of new series starting recently, so it's probably going to, now's the time to hop on and cast your votes. This has been Kagurabachi on Shonen Jumping the Gun. Thank you again for listening, and Brad, hit me with them plugs.
Yeah, so first of all, thanks for Sugoi Mart for partnering with us. Sugoi Mart's a retailer of Japanese snacks, drinks, toys, and merch. They got a lot of cool stuff you can't get outside of Japan. And if you click the link in the description or use code APR15 at checkout, you can get 15% off your first order, which also helps us out. You can let us know what you think on social media, which you can find links for on our website, animepodcasterreincarnation.com. You can also leave comments about these podcast episodes and also find other posts and reviews. Don't forget to check out our Patreon. Supporters get perks like getting to vote on which series to cover on heroin addiction, as well as getting the high-quality stereo version of the podcast early. And we'd love to hear what perks you'd like. We got 2 Patreon shout-outs.
Ooh.
Thank you very much to Rainbow Jello, our first patron, and Rena, who
Exalted.
Rena's our biggest fan. She comments on the site all the time, and she's now a patron.
Well, thank you, Rena. Be sure to check out the main podcast, That Time I Got Reincarnated in the Same World as an Anime Podcaster. And Brad, every morning I wake up and read a new manga so that every day I start the morning with fresh hype.